Okay, now we're back. So you can see under here, we now have the symbol illuminated, which basically says this is the master unit. And over here, you can see that the green bar is no longer blinking. So that means as far as this unit's concerned, it's on the network, and it's available to talk to anybody else who's on the network. This one is not networked, so it won't do anything, but it takes care of the flashing bar, which used to annoy me. All right, over here on the other side, next to Lady Gaga, we have another DLP-8, actually 888. And again, same case style, just different display. You can see the left hand or right hand digit here is a little darker than the other ones. That's because they're a little burned out, a little worn out, but still works great. But notice the nice blinking symbol there. So we have that symbol blinking on both units that are in the network. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this guy to master 0. I'll put the phone down while I do that, and then we'll see how it looks right after that. So stand by. All right, here we are. So I've just done that command, function special 5, and then function again to exit the function settings screen. And you can see that the wireless symbol now has stopped blinking. Let's go check out the other side. And sure enough, what do you know, this one stopped blinking also. And that's because on the network, it can now see a master 0. All right, so these two should ideally be able to talk to each other, but really what we want here is we want this guy to be a slave node. So by default, it's supposed to act as slave 0. I'm going to try that later and see if it works, but if it doesn't, I'll simply set it to slave 1, and that's also very simple. You hit function and then special plus the number 1, 2, or 3. So you're allowed to have up to 4 nodes on the network. So if you have a master 0, you can have slave 1, 2, and 3. You're also allowed to have multiple masters. So you can have master 0 and say master 2, and then maybe you have slave 1 and slave 3. So you can have any mix of that depending on how you're I assume in the parlors, how your islands were set up. And where your cables could reach. Because these cables you can see here, they're not particularly long. They'll go easily between, a machine on either side, but maybe not much more than that. So anyway, that was the first step, was to get these guys reset so that their networking was looking correct. And I think we've got that done now. We'll be able to test that here in a little bit. I've got to read some more of the manual. But from what I understand is if I make a change over on the other unit and say I change its, right now by default, the call button is going to do red. There's a function to change that color to one of the several other colors. And I like the one that kind of makes the side lights run up and down a little bit. So I'm going to set that later, and in theory, if I set that on the master unit, it should also propagate to this slave unit. So that'll be the subject of the next video, and I'll do that a little later this evening and see how it goes. Anyway, I thought some of you might be interested in some of this technology stuff. It's pretty fascinating, and I like the idea of the counters being able to, kind of tell you what's going on. I haven't really talked about that too much, other than showing the counters on a couple of photos. But for example, here's the counter on Lady Gaga. And you can see here, this is the jackpot history. So for the last, 7 jackpots, it shows you how many spins it took to achieve that jackpot. So the last jackpot I had took over 500 spins, at least 500. Notice the times 100 mark there and the 5 bars that are lit up. The previous jackpot was a little over 300 spins, and the one before that was 400 spins. So this machine has been pretty stingy lately. Lady Gaga is a 1 out of, I think it's 219.6 chance. So it really has not been paying off according to par. A friend of mine hit it the other day for about 11,000 balls, so I think he used up its good supply of luck. Anyway, that's it for this first video. I'll try to get these out there, and then we'll see what happens with the lighting test a little later. All right, hope you enjoyed it. Bye.